How's it going, YouTube? Whoa, 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 calm down. You're not on the wrong channel. I know that I am not the legendary CyberKnight 8610, but I guess you could say I'm filling in for him in this video. He got a little sick. So yeah, as you can see, I go by a different name. My name is MegaCapitalG. Some of you guys may recognize the face or the voice. But for those of you guys who don't know, I'm a Yugituber of slightly a different breed. Let's just leave it at that. As you guys can see, my shirt is significantly hot pinker than his, and I wear approximately one less pair of glasses than CyberKnight does. CyberKnight has been so gracious enough to let me rent out his channel. And by rent, I clearly mean a hostile takeover, except it's not quite hostile and I'm not really taking over. This is just a temporary gig. So anyways, in this video, we're going to be talking about tier 0 formats and why I absolutely despise them. I think they're the worst thing on earth. My Uncle Dub K Dad, he had a video about this earlier this week, and I really just want to chime in and give my 2 cents because I find it to be a fascinating topic, and I think that it's relevant right now because with new challengers coming out, not really that far out. I mean, we've got, what, 3 months until that comes out? It's looking like Quillports might be a tier 0 deck. Now, for those of you guys who don't understand that terminology, tier 0 format, what is it? Okay, let me explain. A tier 0 format is a format where you generally have one deck that is clearly on a different tier than everything else, and that deck generally just dominates. Usually at a regional top 8, you may have about 5 or 6 different decks. So on a tier 0 format, you're probably going to have only about 3 different decks. You're going to have one deck that takes about 6 spots up, maybe 7, and then you're going to have, you know, everything else is really considered rogue. I'll give you some examples of tier 0 formats. The Teledad format, the Gladiator Beast format, those are 2 prime examples where those decks won, you know, 6 shonen jumps in a row and everything else was just taking the backseat. Okay, so there are 3 major reasons why I hate tier 0 formats. First things first, you get crazy inflated prices during a tier 0 format. Some of you guys might not remember this, but I actually remember a time when Glads were just dominating and Heraclinos coming out of Gladiator's Assault, since it was a secret rare, that thing was $300, $300 for one fusion card in your extra deck. I remember when Teledad was doing really good, or right after Dad Return was kind of dominating things, and Dark Arm Dragons were about $250 a pop. And with Dark Arm, you've pretty much always played the maximum amount allowed. It's kind of like Solemn Warning. I mean, if you could play 3 Dark Arms, you played 3. If you could play 2 Dark Arms and Teledad, you played 2. So, I mean, in tier 0 formats, it's not uncommon to have a main deck that costs upwards of $1,000. And I feel like it's almost impossible to be a budget player in a tier 0 format. If you're a budget player in a tier 0 format, you're just not going to have a good day. And you look at some of the card prices today, just in the extra deck alone of Draco Sack and Silent Honor Arc and Exciton Knight. I mean, this doesn't even compare to when you get a tier 0 format and you have cards that are, you know, $100, $200, and you basically know that you need 2 and 3 copies of these cards to win. The second thing that I hate about tier 0 formats is you don't get any diversity, which I don't know about you guys, but it makes the game extremely stale to me. I mean, people talk about how last format and this format are pretty much the same thing. Okay, well, if you're playing in a tier 0 format, you go to an event and you know that basically 80% of the time you're going to be playing against the same deck, doing the same exact plays. It gets kind of boring, you know what I mean? And you know that you can either play this deck and have mirror matches all day, that's fun, and by the end of the day, you probably passed out into a boredom coma. The third is, I really don't think that it is a good indication of skill, and this is the one thing that every player kind of harkens back into. They're like, why do I love tier 0 formats? Well, it's the most skillful because you play nothing but mirror matches, which means that the better player always wins. No, it doesn't. Like, I mean, come on, guys. We've had, what, 12 years of competitive history? We all know that going first in Yu-Gi-Oh! Was extremely broken. If nothing else, you get to set your defense up first. You get to C6 cards first. I mean, do I even need to mention FTKs where you can just win before your opponent gets to play a card? Okay, well, all of that translated in the mirror matches too. If you were playing a Teledad mirror match, and Teledad is generally known as one of the more skillful formats, but I mean, how skillful is it really when you go Stratos, Dark Arm, Stardust, and then you set Oppression and Solemn, and it's like, have fun trying to crack that board. When your opponent tries to go off, you're just like, okay, Solemn, okay, Royal Oppression, you lose. Or, you know, you go Stratos, get Malicious, Detroit, you know, summon your Malicious, and then set Crush Card Virus. And then when your opponent goes Rhoda, you just Crush Card them, and you know every single card in their hand, and then they lose their monster. So it's like, what exactly is skillful about it? You know what I mean? Going first was always broken. I mean, I never saw a mirror match in my life where somebody was like, I want to go second. For what? It just didn't make any sense. So I look at Tier 0 formats and I'm like, you're going to get these crazy inflated prices. You're going to go to these events. You're going to only play against 1 or 2 decks. Even if you're just playing on Dueling Network or DevPro, do you really want to play an hour straight and only see 2 decks? That's not fun for anybody. And then the third is, I don't really think that it's a great indication of skill. I think that a better indication of skill is when you go into an event and you top 8 and you've beaten 6 different decks, and it's like, man, you ran the gauntlet. You know what I mean? You took your deck and you beat 6 or 7 different strategies. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think of Tier 0 formats. Do you like them? Do you hate them? Are we going to have one when New Challengers comes out? I really hope that we don't, because I don't want to have to play 3 Mask of Restrict in my side deck. So thank you guys for watching. As always, give CyberKnight a huge thumbs up for letting me post this video on his channel. Subscribe to him. Subscribe to me, of course. And continue watching as always. Stay frosty and remember to play children's card games like a boss. So I've been wondering, like, if CyberKnight went to England and he got knighted by the Queen, would he become like Sir CyberKnight or like CyberKnight Knight? Just something to think about. Just saying. Subscribing makes life happy.